What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in my last video, I was talking about UFC Noche at the Sphere and how I was under the impression that it was starting to gain a little bit of traction, gain a little bit of momentum, and actually kind of be a card that was going to, kind of surprise people. But now I think I'm starting to backtrack on that a little bit. I'm not sure what's really going on as far as like the promotion, the low ticket sales reported, and it's kind of all just kind of up in the air at this point. And in my head, something like this, as Dana says, like a spectacle once in a lifetime and never going to be done again. I would think that it would be kind of hard to screw something like this up. Like, it's a no-brainer. Just get the best fighters that you can. Put the best fighters on the card, the biggest stars, and it's just gonna work. It's a no-brainer. Dana said there's people like lining up, competing to get on this card, and I just don't see how that's the case when there's a bunch of like no-name fighters on the card. Like a bunch of middle of the pack fighters that people really haven't even heard of unless you are a hardcore fan and you're not, I guess, a casual. But this is a kind of event that was supposed to draw in the casuals, draw in people that have never watched the sport before, that aren't the biggest fans, and it was supposed to turn them into fans. And when you're looking at like the rankings of some of these guys, and I'm not even talking about on the prelims, I'm talking about on the main card, these guys are ranked like number 50th in the world, number 60th in the world. And I'm like, you guys couldn't get anybody in top 20. And I know it's Mexican Independence Day, and that's great. And Dana wanted to fill the card up with a bunch of, Mexican fighters and celebrate that, which is fine, But there's no way I can't imagine that there weren't any bigger names that you could have put on this card. Now, I know that Dana actually has this whole big thing going on in Mexico right now with the PI. He just opened a UFC PI in Mexico City, I believe. And, they're hoping that turns out to be a great investment for them, which it probably is. But that being said, I'm just looking at some of the fighters that are on this card, and I'm just not sure how the casual fan, even that wants to buy a ticket to go watch it, could be like persuaded or convinced like this is the one to spend your money on. And it's not just like any UFC ticket price. These ticket prices are what, like 200% higher. They're inflated because it's in the Sphere. So what you would spend for a regular ticket at the T-Mobile or Madison Square Garden, those numbers have tripled just because it's in the Sphere. And I get it. If you have, the money, you want to spend it, by all means, go ahead and do that. But this is I guess a celebration of Mexican heritage, Mexican culture. So you would assume that the turnout is probably going to be, a lot of, Mexican fans or whatever the case may be. But just looking at some of the cards, looking at the card, Dana said that there were going to be guys just scratching and clawing and begging to get on this card. And when I thought about it, when they announced it, I'm like, oh, great, because they had UFC 300 a couple months back. And there were fighters that were on that card that said, hey, I got the job done. I just won. Put me on that Sphere card. That's the one I want to be on. So what bigger stage than to let your company know what you want than on UFC 300? And Dan Ige, for example, came off the couch less than a day's notice, off a few hours' notice, and he went and fought that night. And he said, hey, put me on that Sphere card. That's the one I want to be on. So when they're announcing this card, I'm like, oh, it's a no-brainer. Dan Ige's he has to have a banger on this card. That's the one thing he wanted. He stepped up for the company. Now let's see how they repay him. So when they announced this card, I saw no Dan Ige. And I'm like, wow, that's a bummer. As well as, I'm pretty sure there were a few other fighters that requested to be on this card that were big name fighters, and I just didn't see them on there. Now, if we look at the card directly before the Sphere, which is the fight night that's coming up, you could have put that main event on the main card for the Sphere. Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady. That would have been a great fight for the Sphere. That's a banger. And even looking at the card right after UFC Noche, you still could have put that one on there. And that one's going to be Moicano and Saint Denis. And who wouldn't want to see that at the Sphere? That's a banger. So it's kind of like some of these fighters that are on this card, no offense, you could have put them on a fight night card. You could have put them at the Apex. Or you could even put them somewhere else, but just not on this card right here. Not at the Sphere. Like, if you're talking about you're spending all this money in production, 20 million, 22 million, don't you think you're going to want to get the most bang for your buck? Don't you think you're going to want to bring out the biggest name so you can get a good return on your investment? I'm just not seeing how that's happening right now. I really think this card needs a shakeup. And you've seen Dana White throw fighters on a card or reshuffle a card a week before the card or a week and a half, which is about where we're at right now. We're about a week and a half out. And like you just saw, Dana White just changed the main event for UFC Edmonton in Canada. It was Rose Namajunas, and she was fighting someone on that card, but then they just added Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. So we've seen Dana White shake up cards a week, 2 weeks before. I'm pretty sure there's fighters in training camp right now that are dying to get on the Sphere card. So my thing is, why isn't Dana White doing anything? Why isn't the UFC doing anything to make this more interesting? Because at the end of the day, interest is going down. It's a decline. Talk about the ticket sales being low. I don't know who's going to want to buy it. Personally, I don't know who's going to want to buy this pay-per-view. Like, for what? 2 fights? O'Malley, Merab, and then Ortega, Lopez? Come on. Like, it's not math, and the math's not going right. Like, come on. How else do I got to put it? Dana said that, this was going to be better than UFC 300. And I don't know what he's taking, what he's smoking, what he's drinking. I just don't know how you think you have a better card than UFC 300 that had the likes of Holloway, Gaethje, Pereira, Yuri, Prohashka, Bobby Green, Jim Miller, and just all the other bangers that were on there. Even the prelims had bangers on there. So I just don't really know what's going on. I do think like a shakeup needs to happen. Dana needs to do something quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I don't know if it's just because like maybe the production's done, maybe the promos have already been cut. Because I know this isn't something that, it's not like a regular card at T-Mobile where you can just say, hey, come in here. You know, they gotta shoot stuff. They gotta make it fit for the Sphere, the audio, the visuals, all that stuff. But I'm saying it's literally now or never. Now is the time. Like if you were gonna do anything, you would have to do it now. And I just don't see how the UFC isn't really seeing what the public is seeing. Because I've seen multiple, media outlets, multiple videos talking about how this is going nowhere. How we've all been, promised, or we've all been, hyped up for something that's not even gonna like live up to the expectations. And that's really unfortunate because like who doesn't want to go to the Sphere? Like even if you're not in Vegas, people travel to come to the Sphere. Like this is supposed to be it. Like this is supposed to be like from the prelims to the main fight. You better get there at 4 p.m. because that every fight is going to be a banger. And to be honest with you, if I was there, I wouldn't even show up till the middle of the main card. I'll be with my boys pre-gaming, hitting the casinos, doing anything else but trying to sit through this dreadful card. Like, and I know I'm not the only one. And I just hope that something's done, or maybe this is just like, Dana's like last, like his hoorah. Like maybe Dana knows he's leaving soon, so he wants to just do this, I guess, his way, pour all the money into it, not backtrack, not make any changes, not listen to what the critics say, because that's Dana. He's going to stand on what he stands on. And if you don't agree with it, or if you're not on board, he's going to call you an idiot. He's going to say, hey, the media is dumb. They don't know what they're talking about. So it's kind of like maybe this is just something that Dana has too much pride or too much ego to where he's not backing off. He's not backtracking. He's not making any changes despite all of the, low expectations, or the whatever you want to call it. But, this is just my thoughts on, UFC 306. I still think O'Malley and Merab is a good fight. I still think Lopez and Ortega is a good fight. But other than that, I don't get it. And in a way, I feel like this whole card was kind of just built around Alexa Grasso for some reason. Because she did just do The Ultimate Fighter with Valentina. And I feel like this is kind of just like the finale of like the Ultimate Fighter for Valentina and Grasso. And if that's the case, you know, I don't know. But it's kind of like even Valentina, she's a great fighter. But I can name 5 other female fighters that would be a bigger draw than her. You know, and I guess that's the thing. It's just Mexican Independence Day. So I guess they're just sticking with that. But you can name Zhang Weili, bigger star. Rose Namajunas. Although her fights aren't always the most entertaining, bigger star in my opinion. Could have got Amanda Nunes to come out of retirement. Could have put the Holly on here, the fighter that came over from PFL. You know, it's just, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But other than that, I don't think I got anything else on this card. And that's kind of how underwhelming it is. I wish I had like more stuff to talk about. I wish there was kind of like bigger storylines at play. It's kind of like we already know if O'Malley wins, he's fighting Umar. So, and I don't think anybody is waiting for Umar Nurmagomedov to get in the stage, to get in the cage with O'Malley after he wins. Or even if Merab wins, I don't think anybody is waiting for Umar to go get in the cage and cut a promo. You know what I mean? Like, where are the heavy hitters at? Like, where are the big boys at? Like, you could have put, you know, Derek Lewis. Who wouldn't want to see Derek Lewis fight at the Sphere? Who's going to say that's not entertaining? I know Pereira right now. I know he's ready right now. You could have put Pereira Roundtree in there. You know? You could have put... Isn't Dustin Poirier begging, looking for a fight, for his last fight? You don't think he wanted to do that at the Sphere? Who else, man? Like... Topuria Holloway. Wasn't that supposed to be the main event? If he would have done that, all bets would have been off. All bets would. If Dana would have put Topuria, Max Holloway at the Sphere, it's a wrap. It's over with. It's done. What are we talking about? And that's the thing, man. Like, I don't know what these guys are thinking about doing, wasting all this money on this card that's a borderline Apex card. You know what I mean? And who else, man, like, could have been fighting on this card? Let me think real quick. You could have put Brandon Moreno on this card. You could have put Brandon Royval on this card. You could have put... I'm just trying to go through some of the divisions in my head. I'm trying to think, like... You could have put Cejudo on this card. Triple C at the Sphere. Ain't he Mexican? I mean, who else? Who else could they have put on this card besides Daniel Zellhuber, who is a prospect, a rising prospect? that should be the main fight on the prelims. But he's on the main card. You got guys like Ode Osborne on the main card. And I can't name the other guys on this card because I never heard of them. Man, let me keep... Who wouldn't want to see Sean Strickland at the Sphere? I know he's good. He's recovered. You know? He's ready to go. Sean Strickland's always ready to go. Who else? I'm going to just start naming fighters because really it is kind of disrespectful to the fans that you hyped it up this much. You overpromised and that you will probably end up under-delivering. And that's not cool. But anyway, man, I'm going to save some thoughts for the next video. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Is this Sphere card going nowhere fast? Like, nobody on the card is doing a great job of even promoting their own fight besides Merab. He's the only one, and he's promoting it by being his idiocy, you know? By just being kind of just like off the rails and, you know, like not all the way there. But at least he's doing something. Now, y'all just let me know what y'all think, man. I'm gonna save some for the next video. And hopefully by then we got an update on the Sphere. But if not, you know I'm gonna let you know. All right, I'll catch y'all later. Deuces.